Welcome to an edition of BCTV's Open Studio. My name is Johnny Gifford. I'm the Executive Director of BCTV. I'm quite pleased today to be joined by Randy Shoemaker from Southeast Vermont Transit. You're the CEO. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Of course. I'm curious how long have you been with the organization and what your role in the organization is?
Sure. I helped start our company 28 years ago with three other people. We were Deerfield Valley Transit Association at the time, 6 towns in the Deerfield Valley. And then in 2015, we merged with Connecticut River Transit and we became SEVT, 34 towns. And we have always been nicknamed the Moover because our buses have Holstein spots. So it's been a good moniker for us. Even though we've changed our names, we've hung on to the Moover concept.
So you've been able to like expand your service area and then sort of rebrand to this very affectionate, like hyper-local sort of a thing. That's great.
Yeah, we have. We've been very lucky. A lot of support along the way, and we've been doing very well. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I've ridden the Moover a handful of times.
Great.
And it's great. You know, I drop my car off at Putney Road to get repairs, and then I just take the bus right into work. It's great. So we're here today to talk specifically about your brand new Microtransit program, which seems exciting and new for the Brattleboro area specifically. So I want to get a sense of what this program entails, what it's about, how does it differ from the services that you guys are regularly offering?
Sure. Most of what we offer is fixed route service in Brattleboro. We have the red, white, and blue lines, and we have other buses coming in from other towns, and those are on a fixed schedule, a fixed route, fixed set of stops. But this program is called Microtransit, and that's a fairly new concept in public transit. It's about 3 years old. And Microtransit is defined basically as Uber with a van. So you make a reservation, we'll pick you up, we'll drop you off. We have, it can go any place. Unlike a fixed route bus, this can go any place we have to go to. We can pick up anybody that we would like to, that needs a ride. Some services that we run with vans are age specific or income specific or some other need. The joy of Microtransit is it can go anywhere and pick up anybody.
And now when you say everywhere, does that include like all the dirt roads everywhere? Like how deep out are you guys going?
It does. It includes everything within the town limits of Brattleboro. So the minute we go over a town line, we can't do that. But we can do anything within the town limits. And yes, dirt roads, paved roads, parking lots, we'll be there.
Really be employing that 4-wheel drive.
You betcha.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a service that I think a lot of people will utilize. A lot of people I know that will utilize it.
Great. We hope so too.
Yeah. So I guess just to sort of get started with this, how do folks approach it if someone wants a ride, how are they accessing the service?
So there's 3 ways that they can book a ride. They need to either call us at the office, and the service starts from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night. Our office closes just about at 5. So after 5 o'clock, you're going to need to make a reservation for that evening, either online or through a phone app. So you can call, you can book online, or you can book through your phone. There'll be 3 different ways, and we'll show everybody how that's done and walk everybody through that process.
Great. So what are the operating hours? You mentioned 5 to 11:30, but does it run earlier in the day too, or is this just like an after hours type program?
It's just an after hours program. Our fixed routes go until 5:30ish. And so by us starting at 5 o'clock, we can pick up where the fixed routes leave off. And we specifically started this to address certain markets, but now it's going to be open to the public. But we started out thinking about second and third shift employees.
Right.
We talked about people who just need to get to a late afternoon doctor's appointment or need to go shopping after their work day or what have you. So 5 to 11:30 is a really good time for a lot of people. And it's Monday through Friday. We don't do it on weekends. We just do it during the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really think it's great that you're offering that to a lot of these people who are working late. Me personally, I will pick up my friend from work sometimes at around 11 p.m. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I was in bed right now. So I'm going to be letting him know that this program is coming very soon to Brattleboro.
Yep.
So I guess with that being said, when physically, does this get started? When are you rolling it out?
Sure. Monday, April 15th will be our first day. We'll start at 5 o'clock. Reservations, we'll start accepting reservations the Thursday before, and we'll spend between now and then training people how to use the service and making sure the software works and getting everything, training our staff and getting everything ready to go.
So you alluded to the fact that you're taking reservations starting on that Thursday before. So I guess how long could someone take a reservation, or could someone make a reservation for in advance?
You can book it for as far in advance as you can. There's no limit on the software, and you can book recurring trips. So you can say, I want to book every Tuesday at 5 o'clock to go so and so. You can do that as well on the app and the portal and by calling us. So you don't have to call for every time. And when you book a ride, all you've got to do is click the area or tell us for the return trip. You have to book both legs of the trip to your destination and back, but it's a simple click on the app or on the computer.
And how long from the point of making a reservation, I guess, say if someone wanted a ride like ASAP, how long from the point of making a reservation to actually getting a ride might people expect?
Sure, good question. We are trying to do it within 30 minutes, but that's not guaranteed and that's not fixed. It depends on how busy we are. If there's a lot of people already booked for those times, we'll say to them, or the app will say, please book at another time, either later in the day or another day. We're hoping we're not going to be turning people away. We have 7 seats in this van, and you'll be sharing a ride with other people. So we're hoping that this is going to really take off, and if we find that there's not enough seats or people are being delayed, we'll use a bigger bus. But we'd like to start out with something that can fit into people's driveways and narrow roads, and so we're starting out with a smaller vehicle.
Yeah.
But we hope within 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's great. I imagine, with sort of moving away from fixed routes, the logistics behind, what route do you take, who gets dropped off first, might get a little complicated. I guess especially with up to 7 people in a vehicle. So is there a system that you're designing to sort of allow your drivers to sort of seamlessly pick up and drop off their people?
Yes, there is. It's an app called QRyde, QRyde, and it's a software program that we've been working with in Windsor for the past 14 months. It's a nationwide platform. The state of Vermont is going to it, all their transit systems, but there are algorithms set up in this. So when you key in your ride request, it'll figure out what's the best path to get you to your destination and get to you where we're picking you up, how many stops we'll have to make along the way to drop off other people who are already on the vehicle. So the key to making this thing work is the software. And we wanted to launch this program back in January, but we spent the last several months with the software company making sure this thing works. Because it works in Windsor, but Windsor's a little bit different. There's not the late evening rides after the office closed. There's not a lot of booking online there or through the app. Here, we think in Brattleboro, there'll be a lot of people using the app for these spur-of-the-moment trips, or just because I think the clientele in Brattleboro is very tech-savvy, and I think they'll use those apps that'll afford them to make last-minute reservations.
So the software is really both for the rider and the driver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you make a reservation on your phone or on the portal, that goes to the software, and in each bus there is a GPS locator and a tablet right next to the driver's platform. And that'll say, okay, pick up Mrs. Jones on Brown Avenue on your way to drop off Mr. Smith on his way to Hannaford's. And it will already automatically plot that for you. It will have a Google map that'll show the route path, and it will say what the arrival time is, what the departure time should be, and where your next several rides are.
And so that's public facing too. Could a rider be looking at that as well, or?
It's not designed for that. It's a driver tool that's going to have a screen about this big, and you're going to be driving here, looking at that, and saying, okay, here's my next stop. So it won't appear on the app. It's mostly just for the driver's benefit.
Yeah, right. A very necessary thing for the driver. But
yeah.
It's great that you're employing this smart technology to get people where they need to go, given the complexity of the program.
Yeah, it's really good. It makes this program work. A lot of our demand response vans that are out every day taking people to medical appointments, et cetera, they have the same tablet, but not the same technology that says, these are instant rides. These are live rides. If you book a ride now, the driver will see it in 10 seconds. which we don't have on all the other apps that we do. So it's really amazing, and it's a critical part of this program working.
Clearly, yeah. I don't know how it would work without this, honestly. So I'm glad that you could be able to get it launched up.
We hope everything works.
Yeah.
You never know. We hope so.
That's true. Let's just hope an EMP doesn't come blasting through Brattleboro.
That's right.
With that aside, though, I'm curious just to get a sense of the accessibility of the program. Say if someone had like a wheelchair or a bicycle or something like that, are you able to accommodate? And especially like, if you're going to have multiple people in one vehicle, sort of how are you planning to accommodate some of those needs?
So we'll have a bike rack on the front that'll accommodate either narrow bikes or fat tire bikes. So we'll have that on the front, and we have a lift, and we have room for up to 2 wheelchair positions. And all of our drivers are trained on how to use wheelchairs and how to work with customers who have devices, mobility devices. So if you have a 7-seat van and you put 2 wheelchairs in, we may only have 3 seats open to the public for that amount of time. But the software will figure that all out.
Yeah, there's a way for like the driver to say like, hey, I'm working with multiple wheelchairs right now. Like it's going to cut down on the capacity.
Yes, and until you unload a wheelchair person, that capacity will be limited. But the minute you go to that stop, the software will recognize that and say, okay, you just gained back 3 more seats. So you can take 3 more people.
Interesting.
But the other side of this is that in other cities where this technology has been applied, people think that they can hail it like a cab. It's going by and, hey, can you stop? We cannot do that. We will not do that. It interferes with the algorithms.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it's going to throw everybody else off, and it's going to have a ripple effect through the end of your shift. So if you mess up a ride early on, for whatever reason, you want to just minimize that possibility. So unfortunately, please don't try to hail the van or say, gee, the van blew right by me. You got to make a reservation.
Which can be picked up as soon as, like 30 seconds if all goes
30 minutes, yes.
30 minutes,
yeah. That's right.
Well, that's great. Great to know that it's accessible for people of all abilities, shape, sizes, what have you. So I guess with that being said, is there a charge, any sort of a charge for this program?
There's no charge, which is the nicest part.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say that. That's like the best part of any of the Movers, I don't know, services that I can just kind of hop on. And I'm like, am I supposed to be paying a fare or something? But I'm like, it's kind of nice.
We've always, our company, which we started in '96, from day one, we were always fare free, every route. Because the minute you charge a fare, it impacts ridership. Studies have shown it can impact ridership up to 35-40%. And we always wanted as many people on the bus as we could. So we've never charged a fare. And certainly with the pandemic, a lot of agencies that were charging fares have stopped. We never started, so we'll continue with this service.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a part of being equitable too, to offering access to all people at equal amounts for these rides.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's also great to hear. And so I guess with not taking fares, this kind of leads into another question I have in terms of like how this came to be from a financial standpoint, like how it's funded, but I'm also just curious of how you came up with the idea and how it came to fruition just in general. So it's kind of 2 parts to the question, yeah.
The second part is Microtransit being new, the state of Vermont, we work with the Vermont Agency of Transportation, and they brought in a consultant in 2022 to do 12 studies for microtransit pilots across the state. And we picked 3 areas for them to study. We picked Springfield, Windsor, and Brattleboro. And from that, after we did the studies, VTrans, the Vermont Agency of Transportation, they picked where 5 pilots were going to go. And they did one ones throughout the state, but we chose Windsor for ours if we were awarded to it, and we were granted Windsor. Windsor has no public transit per se in terms of fixed route. They have a hospital, they've got a high school, they've got light industry, they've got senior housing, they have a lot of human services in Windsor. So it was a great test case for us, and I'm really glad we chose it because it's allowed us to expand the quality of life in Windsor and also for us to learn about microtransit. Microtransit takes a lot of different shapes and sizes. It's not one size fits all. Windsor is Monday through Friday, 6 to 6. Brattleboro is going to be evenings. Montpelier took a bunch of their fixed route services away and went with a whole fleet of microtransit vans. So there's just different formats of microtransit, and that's how we came to Brattleboro. Was we've been hearing forever about, can the buses run an hour later? Can you help me get to places you don't go to now? And microtransit was just a natural fit for Brattleboro.
Yeah.
And the second half of your question, Johnny, was funding. We applied for funding several times with the Vermont Agency of Transportation again, and there are really limited or no funds for New Start applications. It's not their fault. Vermont is one of the highest spending states in the country for per capita transportation, public transportation. So I think they're already doing a great job, but there's just a limit as to how much money there is, and there's a lot of communities that want more service. So we did not get microtransit funding from VTrans last year when we applied for the year that we're in now. But we've been working with the Working Communities Challenge, with Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, among others, and we're on their board, and they've done a great job with that program. But they came up with $100,000 in funding for this program through a Northern Borders grant that they have. Their grant was much larger than $100,000, but they allocated $100,000 for this program. They felt so strongly about it. And the program costs about $10,000 a month just to run it. So that buys us roughly 10 months, maybe 8 or 9 months, who knows. So we think that funding is going to last us through until maybe the end of the year. The town of Brattleboro has their human services funding, which we applied for, and just this past weekend, we were approved for $24,000 of funding for microtransit. That'll start in July. So we have $124,000 to get going with, and if that ends next February or March, then it ends. We're going to do everything we can to prevent that. We're applying as we speak with the Vermont Agency of Transportation again for $120,000 of their money just for sustaining. If we can get the first year going, if we can show efficiency, then they'll continue to fund us and sustain us. But we just haven't gotten that initial funding yet for that. And if we do get it, we have a couple of different opportunities this May to learn if one of the 2 grant applications we put in will work. So best case scenario is we'll get their money and we'll pick up in February where the other 2 grants have left off. Worst case scenario is we don't get the funding and we've got till the end of February to find money to keep the thing going until we can apply again.
Well, it's great to hear that both the BDCC and the town have supported this program.
Oh, they've been wonderful.
Yeah, I mean they're great at connecting organizations, individuals to services that they need, and despite Vermont having a high per capita cost on transportation, I think that just shows our desire to care for people's ability to move in their agency.
Yes.
I think that's great, and it's good to see this program actually coming to fruition. So did you take a lot of feedback from your riders, and was that you sort of talked about this a little bit of people saying, "Oh, why does the bus why doesn't the bus run an hour later?" But yeah, was there a lot of feedback that you got from riders, and are you always regularly accepting feedback from people?
We are. When we finished getting Windsor up and going last spring, we did a survey, onboard survey with the riders about if we had microtransit from 5 to 11:30, would you ride it? And we had almost every rider that rode the bus for 3 weeks fill out a survey. The response was overwhelming. We've never had input like that, so fast and so overwhelmingly positive. In the meantime, the BDCC had gone out to major employers previously and had surveyed them and said, what are your second and third shift needs for employment are? Because they had been hearing that transportation was a barrier to filling evening jobs and second and third shift jobs. And as we are all members of the Welcoming Communities Challenge, there are a large number of refugees who would love to work those jobs, who don't have cars yet or don't have access to transportation yet, that would use this service to go to work. So this is why we went until 11:30 at night to bring home the second shifters and get the third shifters at least to work with the hope that in the morning at 6 or 7 o'clock they can find a ride home or a fixed route ride home.
Fixed route, yeah, exactly.
Until we find a 24-hour service for Brattleboro. But right now we're working on the evenings.
Yeah, you're making do with what you got.
Yeah. So long story short, yes, we had a tremendous amount of input both from the riders and from potential users on the through the refugee program and from major employers.
Yeah, great. And then, is there a way for people to give feedback in the future for this program specifically? I imagine that would be helpful. For like the Agency of Transportation to see. Yes.
So we'll do surveys in the future, so they can answer those. They can go on our website. They can call us. They can tell the driver. We're on social media. They can respond there. So there's a number of different ways. We have a separate website page set up on our website just for the service with a lot of FAQs and updated data, the history of the
people
plan.
Could learn a lot more.
Absolutely.
On your website.
Yes.
Yeah. What is that address?
It's moover.com, moover.com.
Easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, it's right there.
Great. So yeah, people can learn more there, see some frequently asked questions, drop feedback. Is there anything else that they could, explore on the site?
Well, when we get the link from this program, we'll put that on there. And
there you go.
And any other promotional materials that we have done will appear there. And the map of Brattleboro, so you can key in your location and you can see exactly whether you fit within the territory or not. Mm-hmm. So there'll be tools like that.
Kind of had a somewhat unrelated random question just occur to me. And I'm curious if the way that rides are booked, like through the app, is it based on like GPS or address? I'm thinking of like someone stranded on the side of the road, and they might not know what address they're at or something.
That's a great question. That and most transit apps are based on where you're standing. Mm-hmm. So if you're standing on the side of the road, that's where your location is. If you've ever used Uber or Lyft, you have to key in what your address is, and you may not know where that is. But on this app, it's you're standing here and you've got to go there. And we have a similar app on all of our buses called Transit, and it shows where all the buses are and where they'll be next, and it'll tell you how long it'll take to get to your stop. And that's the same thing. So I can't sit at my house in Westover and see where the Brattleboro bus is on my app. So it's going to be right where you are. It's very user friendly. So here's where I am, here's what I need a ride, and here's your answer.
That's great. I mean, just considering the weird plethora of zoning we have around here on these rural streets, I think that's going to be well utilized by the population.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. So how many vehicles are you deploying for this program to start?
We just have enough money for one, and I mentioned it was 7 seats. If we find that we need to go with something larger, we'll have a 14-seat bus available, also with a bike rack, also with wheelchair lift. We'd like to fit everybody in here. It's a neat ride. It's a good experience.
So it's this guy right here. Basically.
It's this guy right here. It's 6-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, double tires in the back.
Okay.
We run studded snow tires in the winter, so there are no snow days for this vehicle. This will always run. And it's very comfortable seating. It's got, on the other side, it's standard transit seat entryway, so it's plenty wide, and grab rails and creature comfort, seat belts, etc.
Great.
If you want to have a car seat, you'll need to bring one. We don't supply those, but it's a great vehicle. We're having a lot of fun with it.
Looks powerful. You ought to put a plow in the front and just really have it be a total multi-purpose vehicle.
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, that's great to hear. What is your personal hope for the future of microtransit, for the future of anything related to it, or just the organization in general?
Short term, we would like to be doing 50 rides or more a day. Quantitatively, what we would like. We think that that's pretty reachable. Windsor's doing 30 right now, and we think Brattleboro can do 50. But our overall goal for microtransit is to somehow expand it to other communities. Fixed route bus service is not the answer for everybody. And Vermont's a very rural state. We have 34 towns in Windham and southern Windsor County, and there's towns like, Bonneville or Ludlow that don't need a fixed route bus, but they could sure use a program like this one.
Yeah.
And I have to give credit to VTrans. I think they've done everything they can to fund as many of these as they can, but at some point, there's got to be other funding. And I look for the towns to do that or some other group. And kudos to BDCC for coming up for $100,000 to get this program started. So our goal and our hope for the future of this is that there's more BDCCs, there's more municipal funding. Thank you, Brattleboro, for $24,000. There's got to be more of that, and it's got to be sustainable. I think that's our hope for the future for this program.
That's great. And then what comes next for the Moover in general? If you might not know the answer to that, but I want to rack your brain a little bit.
Sure, that's a fair question. We're always getting requested to do more things.
Yeah, of course.
This hospital or this group or this area. So we would always like to do more of that. Again, it comes down to money. Technology is changing. We're looking into hydrogen buses. We recently did a study of that for a year, and everybody knows about electric vehicles. We'll be buying our first couple of electric vehicles next year. But we're looking at alternate energy vehicles as one part of the future. We'd love to have a facility in Brattleboro someday. We don't have a facility here. We have to lease one. We looked into it, and it was extremely expensive and beyond our means and ability to do it. But if we had a Brattleboro area, we could have our charging stations. We could experiment with different types of energy-propelled buses. So I think we need to look to the future for spreading out more within our area and trying alternative energy sources.
Yeah, which might, help supplement some costs here and there too, and
very much so.
Allow you to just serve more people.
Yes.
And that sounds great.
I hope so.
Yeah, so this microtransit program, I don't want to lose sight of the specific topic here. So it's starting Monday, April 15th. People can book by calling the office during business hours or on the app. What was the name of that app again?
The name of the app is QRyde.
QRyde.
QRyde, okay. One word,
Gotcha.
With a Y instead of an I.
Cool.
QRyde.
So they can book on QRyde as well, and it'll go anywhere in Brattleboro, to and from.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Johnny. Maybe we'll see you on the bus.
I sure am going to take it. Even if I don't need to, I'm going to do it just because I can.
All right, good.
At this point.
Thank you, great.
But yeah, thank you, Randy, for being here. And
thanks for having us.
Moover. And thank you for tuning into another episode of BCTV's Open Studio. We'll catch you soon.